The snowstorm was the kind that swallowed the world whole thick, freezing sheets crashing down over the mountains of northern Montana. Deep inside that wilderness, young Officer Claire Morgan lay half buried under the snow, her wrists bound painfully behind her. Her breath shook in weak, shallow puffs. Her uniform was torn, her skin scraped from the struggle, and her fingers were turning dangerously numb. Beside her, almost completely covered in frost, was her canine partner Shadow, a loyal German shepherd who refused to close his eyes even as the cold stole his strength. His whimpers were faint, but his determination was fierce. He stayed pressed against Claire, trying to keep her alive. Hours earlier, they had been ambushed. Criminals hijacked their convoy, stole classified equipment, and dragged Claire and Shadow deep into the forest. When they couldn't kill her quickly, they left her for the storm to finish. Claire tried to move, but every shift sent fire through her wrists. Tears blurred her vision not from pain, but from a growing hopelessness. "I'm sorry, boy," she whispered to Shadow. Even now, freezing and fading, he nudged her gently as if insisting she hold on a little longer. Miles away, Navy SEAL Jack Rilland was hiking the forest trails on a short leave from deployment. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near danger. He wanted silence, a rare break to calm his mind. But when an alert came through Officer and K9 missing, Jack didn't hesitate. He pushed into the storm without a plan, just instinct and duty. The deeper he moved, the thicker the snow became. His GPS flickered and failed. Only broken branches, faint footprints, and shredded scraps of cloth guided him. By late afternoon, the forest turned dead silent. That's when he heard a weak, cracking whimper beneath the wind. Jack dropped to the snow, listening. The sound was coming from under a fallen, ice-covered tree. He crawled forward, and there, half frozen, motionless, was Shadow. And behind him, Claire's barely conscious face. "Oh, God," Jack breathed. He removed his gloves and checked her pulse. Faint, far too slow. Her lips were blue. Her eyes barely opened. With urgency and tenderness, Jack cut the ropes around her wrists, took off his own thermal jacket, and wrapped it around her trembling body. He lifted her carefully, then reached for Shadow. "You're coming too, buddy," he whispered. With Claire in one arm and Shadow in the other, Jack began the brutal march back through the storm. The wind slapped his face, snow buried his boots, and every step felt heavier than the last, but he kept going, talking to Claire to keep her awake. "You're safe now. Stay with me. I've got you." Hours passed. Darkness crept in. Just as Jack thought he couldn't go further, he heard branches snap behind him. The attackers returned. Jack set Claire and Shadow behind a fallen log and stepped in front of them, ready. The criminals advanced, unaware she was still alive. What followed was swift, silent, and precise. Within minutes, the attackers lay unconscious and bound in the snow. Jack returned to Claire, brushing the frost from her hair. Her eyes opened slowly. You came," she whispered. Jack touched her hand gently. "Of course I did. You're not alone." Moments later, the distant hum of a rescue helicopter cut through the stormy darkness, its spotlight sweeping over the trees. Medics rushed out, lifting Claire and Shadow aboard, wrapping them in warm blankets. "You saved their lives," one medic said, astonished. Jack looked at Claire, her eyes soft with gratitude. "They saved themselves." "I just helped," he replied. But Claire shook her head weakly. "No, you saved us." Days later, in the hospital, Claire awoke to fresh flowers beside her bed and a blanket draped over Shadow's recovery kennel. A simple note lay on her bedside table. "Glad you're safe, Shadow too. Jack." When Jack finally walked into the room, unsure if he belonged there, Claire smiled. "You didn't have to come." "I wanted to make sure you were okay," he said softly. Over the weeks that followed, a quiet bond formed between them, not romance, not dramatics, just two people who understood survival, loss, and unspoken strength. Shadow recovered quickly, and the first thing he did when he regained his strength was trot across the room and press his head against Jack's chest. Claire laughed softly. "Looks like he's adopted you." As spring arrived and the snow melted, Claire returned to duty with Shadow by her side. Jack visited often, and their bond only deepened. One evening, standing outside the station as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Claire whispered the words she had held inside since that night. "You saved my life. But more than that, you gave me hope." Jack's voice softened. "You and Shadow saved mine too." Shadow nudged them both as if sealing a promise. And there, beneath the gentle warmth of the setting sun, Claire felt peace for the first time since the night she nearly froze to death, not because she survived, but because someone chose not to leave her behind.